What's good, friends list, episode 75 of the Gamecast coming at you. There once was a point where BioWare was held as one of gaming's strongest developers, such as Bungie, Bethesda, Naughty Dog, and more. But flash forward to 2020 and really two disappointing launches later in Mass Effect Andromeda and Anthem, it can only be up from here, right? Well, that is until two prominent members of the EA studio left in Casey Hudson and Mark Dara. So, this week, we examine what the future of BioWare truly holds at this point. Where does this newest blow leave two of gaming's biggest RPG franchises in Mass Effect and Dragon Age, let alone the revamp of 2019's Anthem? And maybe the biggest elephant in the room, can BioWare live up to their own lineage and release another great title in the future? Also, Fortnite's newest season has launched, reverberating through different dimensions, and with it, some leaks of potential upcoming skins, including Microsoft's flagship character, Master Chief. Does Fortnite have the potential to dethrone Super Smash Bros. As gaming's history museum, with what appears to be a road filled with various franchises being represented? And just how much steam does this game truly have left? Plus, playing PS2 games on your Series X and S? Sea of Thieves is getting a new battle pass, new games are coming to Xbox Game Pass, and much, much more coming up on the newest episode of the Game Pass Gamecast.
Now the fun begins.
Rigid.
Stop! You violated the law.
Welcome back to another episode of the Game Pass Gamecast, your weekly go-to podcast for all things Xbox Game Pass, and PC gaming, including news, rumors, and conversations around them damn good video games. You can catch new episodes of the show when they drop each and every Friday morning on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and all other major podcast services. So, be sure just to subscribe to us, rate us, review us, all that jazz I tell you every week. Just go over there and fucking do it so that I don't have to tell you every week. Wherever you get a podcast at, do all that jazz. And follow us on Twitter at GPGC Podcast. Stay up to date with everything regarding the show, video games like, and our dope giveaways like our Cyberpunk 2077 giveaway, which we're announcing the winner of today, this show, at the very end of the show. Make sure you listen past my whole rigmarole at the end, oh, thanks everyone for listening, blah, blah, blah. Way after that, you gotta listen all the way to the end. You gotta fucking stick around. We're reeling you in, all right? So make sure you listen to after that, see if you won a copy of Cyberpunk 2077 on us, so you can get in on launch day next week. I'm your host, as always, Travis White, aka Travless, on most internet platforms. Joining me, as always, my partner in crime, my dynamic duo, Mike P-Pack. Mike, what's good? What's going on? And how fucking awesome has it been playing Rainbow Six fucking 3 Gold, baby?
I can't really explain the nostalgia factor that it offers. It's next level, and honestly, the community that's behind it, I know. There hasn't been a lot of people.
When did this game come out? Set the stage for the listeners. All right. When this isn't Rainbow Six Siege we're talking about here, baby. This is OG. This is old school.
Yeah, so we're talking about Rainbow Six 3 Raven Shield, which was originally released on March 18th, 2003. So we're going way back with this one. But yeah, I mean, it's just been a lot of fun. There's a somewhat active community, I would say. I know, there hasn't been a ton of people playing when we've been playing in particular, but there's a community of modders out there that have released like manual patches that you have to install for the game. Mm-hmm. And those patches will give you, access to dedicated servers that they have built for the game. So me and Marshy have just been kind of doing some terrorist hunts, keeping it light, having some fun. It's just been a lot of fun playing a game that is tactical, but it's also like Rainbow Six Siege is tactical, don't get me wrong. But I mean, this game is like bare bones tactics, mm-hmm. and I really like it. It kind of takes a lot of the fluff out of it, and it's just kind of like cut and dry tactical shooter. So I think, I can say for myself, I've been having a ton of fun.
I've been having a fucking blast.
It seems like you guys have been enjoying it too. So
oh my god,
it's been a great time.
Been having a blast, and you make a good point about that game compared to modern Rainbow Six, especially in because let's just call a spade a spade. Rainbow Six Siege, as much as I fucking love it, it's one of my favorite like live service multiplayer games of this generation, hands down. Well, I guess we have to say last generation now, but you get the fucking point. It's one of my favorite games from this past generation, but it's just tactical. It's Overwatch with a tactical skin on it. It's a hero shooter with a tactical skin on it for the most part. I mean, it's not comparative to, original Rainbow Six. We're talking, Rogue Spear. We're talking right now with Raven Shield, Rainbow Six 3, like that traditional
Ghost Recon games.
Ghost Recon even too, yeah. And even like, Counter-Strike to a degree. We're talking, even though that, is kind of in a genre of its own, I would say to a degree. But point being that Siege is, while, at heart a Rainbow Six game, it is very much, straight off of that path of a hardcore tactical shooter. But that doesn't mean that, both of those I don't think can live and breathe in their own space and find enjoyment in both, because I've been having a fucking ball playing this game. For what, $250? Marshy and I picked it up a piece, like,
yeah. I got it in the they had like a Tom Clancy's like bundle a while back now, and I got all the Tom Clancy games through that. But no, you guys picked it up during the autumn sale for $250, so it seems like it's paid dividends thus far.
Yeah, it's been fucking great. Now, besides that, I already know what you're going to say you've been playing. Plus, too, we need an update on how the tournament went and everything with Halo 3 last week. What have you been playing besides Rainbow Six 3?
Yeah, I've been playing besides like Rainbow Six 3, I picked up the Golf Club 2021, or well, I guess it's PGA 2K21, excuse me. I picked that up on Xbox because during like a Black Friday sale, it was like $29 instead of $60. So I went ahead and picked that game up because I did enjoy the Golf Club 2019. And it's been a lot of fun just to have a golf game to play. And then, yeah, as I kind of alluded to in previous episodes and how you alluded to, I did play in a Halo 3 tournament this past Sunday. It didn't quite go our way. Played, pretty well. At the end of the day, we just came up a little short, and we ended up losing. It was a double elimination tournament, and we lost to the eventual champion and the team that took second. So all in all, like, not too much that, like, not a whole lot of reason to hang our head, but obviously anytime I play in a tournament of that nature, the end goal is to win. So came up short, but losing to the eventual champ and the second place team is a small consolation prize for the effort there.
Mm-hmm. No, from what you've talked about with it, and especially that, like, you guys saw overall just progress. And that's, like, to me, like, granted, at the end of the day, yeah, it's like, okay, cool. You didn't necessarily, leave winning, any kind of money or anything like that. But, like, you're at least, like, trying to find the same, like, a good group of guys to play with in terms of from a competitive standpoint, where,
right.
You guys are still trying to find that, like, rhythm. And it, granted, and was it a draft tournament or not? Like, you guys had, it was?
Yeah, so what it was is basically there were captains picked. It was a 22 team tournament. So there's 22 captains picked, and they just picked teams from a pool of players. So that's kind of how it went. But the person who picked me is someone that I play a lot of money eights with on like Friday, Saturday nights. We'll play money, like random eights, where we'll just have two captains pick teams, and then we kind of put a little wager on the match and just play. So it was nice to play with someone who I knew, and that. So at least that much, like, I'm building continuity with that person. But it also helps, like, it just helps in general whenever you play draft tournaments, because you learn how to play with other people, and that's gonna do nothing but help you down the road if you can just pick up and play with anyone. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for sure, dude. So on my end, it's been kind of a hodgepodge of shit. Obviously, we were talking Rainbow Six 3. We've been kind of playing that a decent bit the past couple of days. It's like I said, been scratching that itch that I didn't know I necessarily had, because we've been kind of jumping in through random stuff. We've been playing PUBG a little bit. We've been playing Apex since, the holiday weekend was this past weekend. We've been, having some time off of work, school, whatever, so we've all been able to actually sit down and play some games and have some sessions at night, like we do pretty regularly, but much more regularly, this time now that everyone had some time off. But outside of the stuff we've been kind of playing on, through the rotation, like I said, Rainbow Six 3, been playing some Apex, been playing some what did I just say? PUBG. On my end, kind of single player side, I've been kind of hopping around through a bunch of different things. I finally went back and played. I was talking about The Witcher last week. Wrapped up the Hearts of Stone DLC. Fucking fantastic, man. That the fact that if they would have CD Projekt Red, man, if they could have, and it was funny. Friend of the show, Mike Collins, who's been on a few times, he called me out on Twitter because he was like, remember whenever you fucking hated The Witcher and you didn't like it, yada yada. I was like, no, I'm eating crow on this because it's fucking fantastic. It's crazy to me that game or that DLC is a DLC. Like, that could have been presented as hands down a standalone release. It could have been, almost like a Miles Morales-esque envision or release type of thing to The Witcher, like just a 1.5 type of thing, or I guess in The Witcher's case, a 3.5. So it's crazy to me that that's at the point where, CD Projekt Red is able to just make stuff like that, make these complete projects that, hey, this is, we're going to obviously, before we transition the Witcher team over to the Cyberpunk team, they're going to work on this and kind of put a bow on this stuff. And I did start Blood and Wine. I haven't been as deep into that because I've been playing other things too. Because it took me probably, 12, 13 hours to play through the Hearts of Stone DLC.
Right.
Which isn't like, it's not that much time, but it's still like, okay, I've invested in that. Like, that's why I say, like, it could be a standalone game with how much time you put into it. Blood and Wine, from what I've heard, is 20 plus hours. So, like, I get in that weird position where I'm like, oh, yeah, the Cyberpunk 2077 is coming out, and that's going to be the next big game I probably play. But that's going to probably take up most of December for me in terms of, like, single-player stuff that I'm playing. Where that game is just going to be so dense and deep that... it's going to take up my time. And I'm actually kind of contemplating now going back. I'm like, I pre-ordered it on Xbox. This was fucking 2019, I think, or something like that. When it first got a release date. Yeah. It was right after the fucking Keanu reveal. I pre-ordered it, and I pre-ordered it on Xbox, knowing that by then probably the Series X would be out and I'd be playing it on that, or I'd have the best console version of that. Thinking that, okay, my PC at that time, like, I need to do some upgrades to it. I didn't necessarily want to play it. I knew I could play it at probably a higher fidelity on console, given my PC. Granted, in terms of, texture quality and whatnot. But now that I have some upgrades into my PC, and how much I just, like, the older I get, the more I find myself being like, dude, I just can't play first-person games, like, with twin sticks like anymore. Like, I need to play it on PC. Like, it just feels so much natural on PC. It always has been, but just the older I get, I don't know why. I'm just like, man, that to me, like, just feels so much more natural playing a first person game of any degree, whether it's an RPG, whether it's a shooter, whether it's whatever. And this kind of being a mixture of both, I'm like, the more I think about it, the more I feel more comfortable buying it on PC now that my PC's a little bit better, but
yeah, I kind of hear you.
Yeah,
about the controls anyway.
Yeah, it's just kind of, I don't mind it. Trust me. I've played through. I mean, I put 50 plus hours in a playthrough through Fallout 4 a couple of different times. Like, I probably put 100 plus hours in console to Fallout 4, and God forbid, how many hours I put into Oblivion over my life or Skyrim or whatever. So it's like, I don't mind it. It's just, it just feels so much more natural playing a first-person game on PC, given the fact that that's what they were originally developed for, was PC.
Right.
So, it is what it is. But I'm very, very tempted now to, just pre-order it on Steam and play it on PC. But outside of that, my fiance and I have been kind of bouncing in and out of a few things. We tried Night Call on Game Pass, which is an indie game where you play as a Taxi Driver in Paris, and it is more of like almost a text adventure game where you play as this taxi driver, and you go and you are at one point in the during your shift at one point you are attacked by the serial killer that's going throughout Paris, and he doesn't kill you, but you're like close to death. But after that, you start back onto your shift, and the police come to you and say, oh, we know of your criminal past, but we need your help catching this serial killer. And basically what it is a detective game for the most part, only you're not a detective, you're a cab driver, and you have to kind of piece together the web of connections throughout all of your passengers that you pick up each shift, plus managing, I have to pay bills, I have to pay for my gas, you have to still make a profit because it's your job or you'll get evicted. So it's like balancing all of that. It's a really, really, really cool concept, and I'm really, really digging it so far. It's a game that I feel like I kind of would want to play on PC, because I could throw my headphones on, sit here, and kind of like read a little bit more. Like my fiance and I are playing it together, so we're trying to find things that we could play together. And she loves like, detective stories, serial killers, stuff like that. Like she loves all of that shit. So that was something we've kind of been tiptoeing around. And then also too, we've been playing Little Hope, the newest Dark Pictures anthology entry from Supermassive, the guys who made Until Dawn. And it's weird, man. Like I don't want to ramble too long because I don't want to go too long. For once, I have like all these different games I'm able to talk about. I don't want to ramble too long on it, but man, it's tough to see where, I don't know why Supermassive just can't nail down what they had with Until Dawn again. And I don't want to say that because this game is from a fidelity level, it is polished, the environments are fucking fantastic. They still can't fucking nail down like mouth movement, which is it sucks. Like the animation is a little wonky with it, but it's sad that like, and I don't want to take anything away from Supermassive, because fucking developing video games is extremely hard, and I'll never punch down like that or anything like that. It just shocks me that they're not able to find that spark that they had with Until Dawn. And maybe it was because Until Dawn didn't have as high of expectations that I think of when I go into it. But, it's just, I was hoping, and granted, we're still trying to play through it, but, and to be honest, we're playing it on PS5 just because I wanted to pick it up on.
Well, it's easy to play with someone, like if you're playing with, Molly,
Right, no, exactly. And we love playing, the horror style games like that, but especially just any kind of like the Telltale adventure-esque games, like that. So, but I'm playing it on PS5, all transparency, just because on Black Friday when I went to pick it up, nobody had an Xbox copy, so I just picked it up on PlayStation. But it keeps crashing at one point, and we can't get past this point. So literally, we are stuck in like, we just cannot get past this one point. It just crashes the game every single time. So I hope to eventually beat it. It's not that long a game. It supposedly only takes like 4 hours to get through, because they've been trying to release a new one every year. So hopefully next week I'll be able to kind of come and wrap that up. But so far I like the story. It's still not as strong narratively as Until Dawn, but at the same time, it's definitely hitting a lot better than Man of Medan. It definitely is a step forward than Man of Medan, which is what I was asking for, which is cool. That's great. That's kind of what I expected. But man, I know I've seen what they were able to accomplish at one point with that staff, and only growing past then and getting even more talented people in. That I think this model of one a year just isn't. I just don't think it's necessarily. It doesn't seem like it's going to work long term. I just feel so much more confident if, hey, take 3 years, take 4 years tops, to make a actual deep experience, and do it, or hell, do an episodic. That's fine too. That's worked so much for, Don't Nod with Life is Strange, with Telltale. Like, it's worked with these these different developers who have put out these projects that are similar to it. just do that. Like, it's cool. Like, nobody has an issue with that, I don't think. As long as it's a consistent drop, and it's not, 6 months to a year in between these episodes. So hopefully, knock on wood, I'll be able to finish it. It'll get past it. We'll be able to force past, that spot that it just keeps fucking crashing. But anyways, Mike, before we head into our big topics for this week, let's head into Button Mash, go over the quick hits of the week. Starting out with, of course, Sea of Thieves. We rarely get to talk about Sea of Thieves on here. The game that I need to get into more. I really want to. I feel like that'd be a fun time, even though Kyle has mentioned wanting to play Sea of Thieves, and I know he'll just kabumfuck the whole thing and, just destroy our ship right off the bat, just like he lets fucking spiders into the house in Minecraft. So that may not be a game we play with Kyle.
It's 100% he just wants to troll, but, you know.
Yeah, we'll just give him a little fucking, like, tiny little ship and let him, oh yeah, you are the captain, good job. Anyways, Sea of Thieves, back to, before we derail it too much, Sea of Thieves. They're introducing a seasonal progression system, a la a battle pass, in January 2021, alongside both free and premium options of that. Announced as part of the final Sea of Thieves news for 2020, Rare will be moving away from the game's consistent monthly update model. The season system will replace this, bringing players new content every 3 months with a, quote, new way to play introduced in every season, starting with Season 1 in January 2021. Each season will feature regular and featured live events, as well as new rewards for pirate outlaws to uncover. CD Projekt Red has revealed Cyberpunk 2077's photo mode in a new trailer. The 2-minute video shows off numerous features from the photo mode that will be available in Cyberpunk 2077. As you would imagine, it's pretty full-featured, shocking, including some very neon filters and punk stickers, as well as a host of camera, depth of field, pose, and effects options. A substantial operating system update has landed on the Xbox Series X and S and the Xbox One family of systems, providing users with dynamic backgrounds and the ability to preload Xbox Game Pass games. You can see the full update notes on the Xbox Wire website, which digs into the ins and outs of the first major update for the Series X and S. The latest patch for Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War has boosted weapon XP earn rates across multiplayer and zombies, following player complaints about slow progression. The change was revealed as part of Treyarch's latest patch notes, which detailed the change to weapon XP as well as a few other bugs, fixes across zombies, and the new Nuketown 84 map. Quote, coming out of last week's double win XP event, we've made some additional tuning changes to global weapon XP earn rates across the board, the notes read. Starting today, you'll now level up weapons and unlock more attachments faster than the previous standard rate in both multiplayer and zombies. Microsoft Flight Simulator will get VR support, which is pretty dope, on December 22nd, 2020, and a substantial UK World update, which will be ready on January 26, 2021. Revealed during an official Microsoft Flight Simulator developer Q&A on Twitch, VR will be added to the free Sim Update 2 for all the big VR headsets, including those from Oculus and Valve. Furthermore, the VR experience will include both the gameplay and menus, offering a smooth and immersive experience throughout. That'll be pretty dope. If you begin Cyberpunk 2077 on either PlayStation 4 or Xbox One, you will be able to bring your save with you to PS5 and Series X respectively, or S respectively. Cyberpunk 2077 developer CD Projekt Red detailed the steps needed to ensure your saves will transfer with you to your next-gen console, and they vary slightly between PS5 and Xbox Series X. Obviously, being an Xbox show, we're going to focus on the Xbox end. It's a bit easier on the Xbox side of things with cross-save, as Smart Delivery Quote allows you to continue playing the game on the Xbox Series X and S where you left off on Xbox One. As long as you're able to connect to the internet, so your save data can be uploaded to the cloud, your save will transfer seamlessly and will be ready when you start Cyberpunk 2077 on your new next-gen system. If you need another option, you could also connect both your Xbox One and Series system to the same network and use the system network transfer option. And then finally, Mike, Xbox Wire has confirmed that Control It was one of the game of the years last year, really, and one of my favorite games from last year, will be arriving on Xbox Game Pass on both console and Android via cloud gaming on December 3rd. That's today, recording, so if you're listening to this tomorrow, go fucking download it. If you got Game Pass, it's dope. Marshy's playing through it right now, and he's already really liking it. There is no mention of this being the Control Ultimate Edition, which is the next gen upgrade, has DLC, yada yada. So it appears to be the version of Control which doesn't include that DLC and no free upgrade for Series X or S versions when they arrive in 2021. Control is one of 17 games arriving in December 2020 on Game Pass. The rest of the games are as follow: Doom Eternal on PC for Game Pass, that's out today. Same with Haven on console and PC, Rage 2 on Android, Slime Rancher on Android and console, Val 11 Hala as Cyberpunk Bartender Action on PC, Yes Your Grace on PC and console and Android as well on December 3rd, so that's today, it's out now. And as well, coming out if you're listening to this, it's live now, Dragon Quest XI's Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition. Mike, I want you to say that name of that specific edition of that game fast, 3 times.
Dragon Quest XI Echoes of an Elusive Age. Dragon Quest XI
You forgot definitive, you fuck.
Oh, Dragon Quest XI Echoes of an
You
Elusive
didn't
Age.
have
Edition.
to. I was just being hyperbolic. It's a long ass name. They didn't need Square Enix. You don't need to make it that long. We get it.
I'm just trolling.
I know. That's coming out on console and PC on December 4th, the day this goes live. So if you're listening to it and you want to play Dragon Quest, cool. Jump in and play it. Call of the Sea is coming out on Android console and PC on December 8th. Same with Monster Sanctuary on Android and console, and Starbound on PC. On December 9th, Unto the End on console and PC. Assetto Corsa on December 10th, as well as Gang Beasts on Android and console, Greedfall on Android console and PC, Superhot Mind Control Delete on Android and console, and Yooka-Laylee in the Impossible Lair on Android console and PC. That's all December 10th. So, Mike, that was a lot to run through. After all of that, anything you want to run back before we head into the big topics for this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is the most substantial Xbox Game Pass drop that we've seen in a very long time. I mean, there's some banger games coming out. I almost bought Doom Eternal for PC, but I waited, and I'm being rewarded for my patience. So I'm really pumped to dig into Doom Eternal.
And before you continue too, just a side note, released from Xbox, and this is for new users only. I'm pretty sure right now, the 3 months for $1 for Game Pass.
Oh, back again.
Back again. So if you haven't got Game Pass before, fucking jump in right now. You can play all this shit for $1 for 3 months. So, anyways, continue, Mike.
We might have to do a turbo giveaway of that for someone who's a new. I don't know how we could do that, but try to figure that out. I guess
we can give some. I'll pay $1 to somebody.
Yeah, like Cash App or something dumb. Yeah. Anyway, and continuing on, the Cyberpunk cross save is pretty cool because there's going to be a lot of kids that don't get the Xbox One or the Xbox Series X or the PlayStation 5 this holiday season, but their parents are still probably going to be able to get them, Cyberpunk, because you're going to be able to purchase that game, right? So that's really cool that they're going to make this, that you're going to be able to, take your save with you when you do get the new console. I think that's going to be great for people because, there's going to be people who just don't have $500 to fork up right now. There's going to be parents that just can't get their hands on a console. So they're doing the next best thing that they can do. And they're going to make it, a thing that you can do to bring your save over. And I think that's, great work. And I think that's going to be really cool, for people that might not be able to play on their new console right off the bat because they don't have it yet. And then I think, other than that, oh yeah, the Sea of Thieves update, going from a monthly update cycle to a seasonal update cycle is interesting because there's a few different reasons that could be the case. Something that comes to mind for me is that the studio might have something else in the works coming down the pipe eventually because, when the studio doesn't have as much time to devote, they're going to go away from the monthly update cycle. Because if they've been, updating this game monthly to this point, it's not like all of a sudden, oh my God, the game's fixed and we don't need to pay attention to it anymore. And it's not that they're neglecting it, but I truthfully think that, they're going to be potentially working on something else coming up, which is probably great for them. And it'll be a good breath of fresh air. But outside of that, I don't have a whole lot more to add. I think we have some banger news topics that we can get on to next because right before we're recording, there's a pretty big news article came out. So you want to get into that?
Fuck yeah, man. Let's get into just before we do, I do want to kind of just touch on you mentioned about Rare potentially having something in the pipe. It's been like tongue in cheek confirmed that there's multiple teams that are at Rare right now actually working on stuff because they've had a couple. I think they've provided support to a couple of different projects within the like Xbox Game Studios, grouping or whatever, outside of Sea of Thieves and what's the fucking game that they Rare Everwild, that's it, Everwild. That they announced was last year, I think. But yeah, so besides those two games, supposedly there is another game that they do have in development because Rare's actually pretty stacked up compared to what it used to be in terms of the staffing that they have right now. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see with this new generation of Xbox, with this new approach to game development that Xbox Game Studios has with all of these teams under it, but specifically the push for, I think, a little bit smaller experiences with this Game Pass model and being able to get more content out at a quicker drip. I'm curious to see how that kind of all pans out. And it's exciting. It's more games, and Rare kicks ass. I mean, Sea of Thieves isn't necessarily my thing, but it still kicks ass. But yeah, we do have some big stuff to get into this week. And Mike, you kind of touched on it right there, right at the top of this. We had in typical fashion, which is the one nice thing about waiting until Thursday night to record, have the show go live Friday. And it's not bad because I, especially right now with the whole pandemic thing going on and working from home more and stuff like that, it gives me a little bit more flexibility to get stuff done in terms of the back end of the show and whatnot. So it's not that big of a deal. But it is nice because usually we have all of the news for the whole week that is kind of ready to go by then. There's nothing else that could happen. So I type up the thing. I'm like, it's kind of a light week. It's kind of a little bit of a light week for news in the world of Xbox and just gaming in general a little bit, but then as I do that, I am working on the graphics for, the thumbnail and whatnot for the show this week. I already recorded the intro for the show and boom, completely have to remove what I thought was going to be the headline article for this week. Nah, we got a bigger one. So kicking it off here, Casey Hudson and Mark Dara to leave BioWare. That's right, Casey Hudson. When you think Casey Hudson, you think Mass Effect because he is Mr. Mass Effect. This is huge to leave BioWare, and that's the second time he's left. So they are leaving BioWare, but all current projects plan to continue. This comes from Jonathan Dornbush over on IGN, as always. Link in the description. Go over there. Give a click to Jonathan. He does great work over at IGN and Podcast Beyond and all of that, so make sure you go over there and check out his work. EA has announced that Casey Hudson, the general manager of BioWare, and Mark Dara, the executive producer of the upcoming Dragon Age, will be departing the company. All current ongoing projects, including Anthem Next, the next Dragon Age, and the Mass Effect, the Legendary Edition remasters among them, will continue as planned despite the leadership shifts. Samantha Ryan will continue to oversee the studio, while Christian Daly, who joined BioWare from Blizzard, will now be leading the Dragon Age project as executive producer, with Matthew Goldman remaining as creative director on the project. And the Mass Effect collection will continue to be led by Mike Gamble, as the team also remains, quote, hard at work on the future of that franchise. This marks Hudson's second departure from BioWare after he first left the studio in 2014 and announced a new position at Microsoft in 2015. Hudson rejoined BioWare in 2017 when then GM Aaron Flynn stepped down. While the company searches for a new GM, Gary McKay, the senior director of development operations, will act as interim studio GM. Quote, they will always be an important part of the studio's history. We appreciate their many contributions and we look forward to seeing what they will do next. Laura Maley, chief studio officer at EA, said in a statement announcing the duo's departure. Quote, it's not an easy decision to make, and big changes like this always come with certain degrees of sadness. I will miss being able to work every day with our inspiring developers on the biggest and most exciting projects I can imagine. But I also know that this is a good time for a change for both myself and BioWare, Hudson said in a post explaining his departure. It's profound and humbling to look back on a decades-long career and think about these things that we've achieved together. It's hard to make the decision to move on, but I'm excited about what's next for all of us. Dara also wrote about the decision to leave, saying, quote, this has been a very difficult decision for me. The team of amazing developers on Dragon Age make my life fuller and better. They have taught me so much, but the strength of the team is also what makes this possible. I know that Dragon Age won't just survive without me, it'll thrive. Christian Daly is a strong leader and will provide great insight to the rest of the Dragon Age leadership who remain. This is a team that includes people with decades of experience at BioWare. I am confident that together, this is the team that can make this Dragon Age the best one yet. End quote. Man. So just when you think the future of BioWare is starting to kind of, take a turn for the better, considering it was at pretty much rock bottom, after major blows in the forms of two major industry figures leaving at one point, not to mention an additional, you've released two games that were, not great in Andromeda and, Anthem, then following that back up, two actual in-house BioWare titles that weren't just, hey, BioWare's producing this. This is a developed BioWare game, it's just a major blow in the form of these two just major industry figures leaving. That really just pulls the wind from the sails from all of that. That you're just starting to see some, you're starting to see some joy. You're starting to see some excitement around BioWare again with saying, hey, we're pulling back, we're pulling Anthem back. We're going to we see you out there. We hear you. We're pulling this back. We're going to work on this. We're going to get this game in a position that we want it to be in. And even too, hey, don't forget, Dragon Age has been in the cooker. We're taking all the feedback here. This is what next gen Dragon Age is starting to look like. Here's concept. Here's some, in-engine shots, things like that. And then too, hey, we're finally giving you what you want. The Mass Effect trilogy remastered. Boom, here you go. But while Dragon Age, it isn't necessarily as poor of a spot as Mass Effect, like we were saying. It's still the sour taste that, like I said, back-to-back just poorly received titles in the Andromeda and Anthem, it just left them with such a high hill to climb to begin with. So Mike, what does this, I guess, truly say about, to you, I guess, to us, to, fans of Mass Effect, fans of Dragon Age, fans of just, what BioWare has accomplished in the past, whether it's KOTOR, whether it's, what's the, I can't remember the MMO. They do a Star Wars MMO that I played a few times. It's pretty good. But they've just have been such a staple in the RPG community. What does this truly say about the current state of BioWare? Where does Dragon Age and Mass Effect go from here now that these two integral pieces of just the history of BioWare left to their inception? Like, they're the people, like Casey Hudson and Mark Darrah are the heart of those two franchises respectively. Where do they go from here? At one point I thought this question really wasn't impossible to ask. It's one of those things, like almost a Bethesda type of thing at one point. But is BioWare capable of making a great game in 2020 and beyond?
Yeah,
it's a lot to unwrap, I know.
Yeah, I think, you kind of beat around the bush and kind of set this one up, pretty well with the way that you told, the news story. But for me, it, as you alluded to, like, Dragon Age isn't quite as in as poor of a position as Mass Effect is. But I think this really puts the exclamation point on the fact that BioWare is really attempting to kind of shift gears and recover from where they've gotten to. And you never like to see anyone lose their job. That's always obviously one of the the worst parts about our show, is having to cover news articles like this. And it seems like an amicable separation, which is nice, because both the studio has benefited greatly from these two pioneers working for them. But as much as the studio's really benefited, the two pioneers here have also grown a lot with the studio. So it is really bittersweet to see this happen. But as you were saying, kind of in the news story, that Mass Effect's kind of been in the dumps for a little while. That's something that's obviously, you never, like I said, again, I just want to reiterate, you never want anyone to lose their job. But if you're a fan of Mass Effect, you might actually kind of be, this could be taken positively, just because you think like of how Andromeda was received. And if if you weren't the biggest fan of Andromeda, you could think like maybe they're going to go in a new direction with that. As far as Dragon Age is concerned, it does feel really strange that a game in the midst of development, well, both really in the midst of development, are making these big changes. But you know, we see this in the industry a little bit more today than we have ever, because with 343 making the moves that they made. So it's not like a groundbreaking maneuver to make switches at this point in the game, but it definitely feels like whatever was being offered to BioWare um just isn't something that they were wanting, to they BioWare basically wasn't wanting what was being offered to them. So these two gentlemen are gonna really, they're gonna land on their feet. They're gonna definitely, they'll have jobs going forward and everything, and obviously it won't be working on their passion projects, but um, hopefully BioWare is able to right the ship, because we've talked about it multiple times on this show. There was a point in time where BioWare was starting to get into like the Bethesda territory of the game development world. People were starting to really respect what BioWare was producing, almost in a way that's like it's almost an automatic purchase. Whatever BioWare
Mhm.
puts out, I'm buying. It doesn't matter, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, I'm interested to see where these games go from here, and I wish the two, the best of luck going forward, and hopefully BioWare is able to produce something that they're proud of and want to produce.
No, definitely. And that's what, we do have to realize that whenever we talk about this and, people moving jobs, leaving positions and stuff, even if it is high profile positions like a creative director position, in this case with Casey Hudson being the studio GM, like these are also people. Like we
Yeah,
need to remember that people are the ones behind these games that we make, that we love and everything like that. And, sometimes we do get, too close to that to sometimes see that. And, we look for these conspiracy theories. Oh my God, what's going on with this? There's drama. There's some tea, as the kids say, I think. But it's it, while that is true, I think there is a little more to this, to a degree. And I don't want to look at, I don't want to, I don't want to talk about people's lives or anything like their livelihood or anything like that. But, for somebody like Casey Hudson, who has been so integral to just RPGs in general over the past 20 years for the most part, and somebody who is really put, the console sci-fi RPG genre really on really the map of, mainstream with Mass Effect, and that hitting at such a big time for a lot of people on the 360 pretty early in the gen in 2007. Like it's a lot of people's first, one of people's first console RPGs, and really how that game has shifted, and that franchise has shifted and kind of, varied back and forth between, oh, now it's a space opera with more more focused on actual third person shooting compared to RPG. Well, now we're leaning back into RPG elements. Okay, now we're going back, but for him to leave at this position, knowing where Mass Effect's at right now, and having him come back to the studio
to try to save it. Mhm.
yeah, and I'm sure one, coming back to also help out with Anthem, trying to get that
Mhm.
in a good position, that not obviously being where people wanted it to be, and not seeing the, sometimes when live service games launch, they're not great at launch because they don't have a ton of content yet. And then, after 6 months or something, you start to see the trajectory start to go up, and you see massive numbers and stuff. It's almost the Destiny algorithm, where you see Destiny will have such ebbs and flows because people will go through the content and they'll devour it and they'll love it when they have all the content. But then it's like, okay, now what am I working towards? Oh, new content. Cool. Now I'm loving it again. And, we didn't see that with Anthem. It just got stagnant, and that's why they pulled it back. And I totally agree. They did the right thing with Anthem, where they're doing what Hello Games did with No Man's Sky. Sean Murray with Hello Games, head down, said cool when we released that game and it came out like trash, and we needed to clearly get back to work and make it a game that we promised. He took it, him and the team took it on the chin, went dark, and went to work, and they released something that is now beloved by people. I mean, fucking No Man's Sky is like one of the most positive communities that we're going to see in quote unquote live service games right now. But for somebody like Casey Hudson, who is that prominent within the games industry, who has that much clout, if you want to say, that much experience, that much pushing for him, it almost rings as a writing on the wall type of move. Like seeing where it's going, what's going on, what EA wants to. And me personally, I've never, and you're the same way, Mike. I feel pretty safe saying we whenever we're talking about this. You know, we're not fans of EA for the most part. Now, granted, I've been starting to actually get semi-positive on EA the past year and a half at most, with how they finally have started handling the Star Wars IP and their deal with them. Because actually, too, I bought I got it free whenever I got my PS4 Pro, but never really touched it. Because I heard so many bad things about it at the time or whatnot. But since it's had its turnaround, I actually, during the autumn sale on Steam, I picked up the Star Wars Battlefield 2, the Celebration Edition that they put out. It was only like $12, but you get all of the content basically with it. And that game's fucking rad, dude. Like, it plays so fucking well on PC. It feels so... If you're a Star Wars fan in the least little bit, it feels fucking fantastic. The shooting mechanics are fucking great. Like, they're really starting to let their studios flex with the Star Wars IP. They're starting to actually say, like EA Motive with Star Wars Squadrons, it wasn't the experience I was hoping for, but still doesn't make it a bad game. And people love it. It was a great contained experience with, you know, minimal DLC purchases that people were worried about, microtransactions. And then my game of the year last year, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. You know, so I've started to become more positive on EA, but since EA purchased BioWare, it seems like it's just been almost like that initial, okay, cool, EA is purchasing BioWare, they get funding for their next couple projects, and it's great. They, you know, Mass Effect 1 had already come out because that was published by Microsoft, at that time, Microsoft Game Studios. And it was an Xbox exclusive, and then finally came to PS3 after after EA purchased BioWare. But you saw great funding for, hey, cool, we were secure for quite a long time because of all the hard work we've put in being this PC RPG king turned console king now with console RPGs. And EA saw that and said, cool, we want to pick them up. We're going to fund them. You're going to make games for us now. And we saw how great that was at first, with Mass Effect 2 being one of the highest rated games of all time, and being one of the most beloved RPGs of all time, to then a new IP in Dragon Age, and Dragon Age Origins coming out and really catching a lot of people off guard, saying, okay, so you're taking the Mass Effect formula, and the Mass Effect 2 formula specifically, and applying it to medieval fantasy. I fuck with that, and people did fuck with that. And while Dragon Age 2 was kind of the tipping point, and you started to see the drop off, they still had Dragon Age Inquisition that did come out and won Game of the Year in 2014. Granted, 2014 was not a very good year for video games, but point being, it still was a good enough game to win a Game of the Year award at the Game Awards. So, but then we see, you know, like I said, Dragon Age 2, to then Mass Effect 3, which was very, you know, divisive amongst fans, to then Dragon Age Inquisition, to then Mass Effect Andromeda, which was a stinker, and then to Anthem, which kind of sunk the ship a little bit. So it's been this it was this instant inject to then almost just it was just a consistent downward trajectory. And it's just, it's one of those things that you see and it's like, okay, if you were in a position like Casey Hudson and even Mark as well, who was the grandfather behind Dragon Age, really, you know, you see the writing on the wall of, okay, we saw Dragon Age 4 be teased. Hell, that was in 2018, I think, at the Game Awards in 2018. So it's almost been two full years. We saw a tease for that, nothing else from it for the most part, outside of EA showing some in-engine stuff for what environments could look like on next-gen consoles this past summer. But we've heard nothing about that because it sounds like, from what I've heard, they moved that team over to the Anthem team to work on that. it's just at that point, it's like, you know, it's just so hard to look at the state. This is if you're a long-term fan of BioWare, you can't read this as a positive. Like, it's hard to read this as a positive. It's hard to read this as, oh yeah, these guys are, yeah, they're signing off on the team that's left there. And not that I'm saying any of, these people are ridiculously talented. I'm sure they're leaving, the keys to the car too, but there's a specific touch of, it's almost like we were talking about, the Bethesda touch that stands, their RPGs stand different than everyone else's. BioWare's RPGs stand different than everyone else's. When you're playing this game, and I was actually having a conversation similar to this with Star Wars with a coworker, where I was saying, even though I don't vibe with every Star Wars story that's told, it's still all Star Wars. There's still this underlying feeling that this, this polish and quality that you're going to get, and this thematic feeling that you're going, or this emotion that's evoked within the writing, within everything, within the cinematography, that it's Star Wars. No matter what, it's still very much Star Wars. And that's why I'll always keep coming back to it, because I just love that aesthetic, that feel, that vibe. And that's why I love Bethesda. That's why I love BioWare games. They each have their own specific personal feel to them that nobody else can do. It's nobody else can touch what they're doing to a degree, whether good, bad, and different. Like, their flaws sometimes endure them to me. Like Bethesda, they're sometimes very fucking buggy games, but it's everything. Some of the stuff's just fucking funny for the most part. 99% of the stuff you're gonna see is just, sometimes some of the code got jumbled, and this fucking NPC's route that they take ends up them going into somebody's house and like fucking punching somebody. Like, oh shit, oh that's horrible. Like, it's not game breaking. Like, it's usually just like, okay, what do you expect? It's a fucking massive open world game that's been in development for 7 years. Of course there's going to, like, nothing's going to be perfect. But in terms of the actual bare bones of the game, when we look at BioWare this past generation, it's been pretty much a consistent downward trajectory. And just when you think they're getting there, this to me is a sign of writing on the wall. Like, I still think that they can make a great game in the future, but this isn't a positive sign to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you think it is?
I don't. I just think that I don't know. I don't necessarily say. I know, like, in what I said, basically, it could be portrayed as me saying, like, this could be a positive thing to lose these people, which I think that exact phrase came out of my mouth, but that's just me trying to, like, look at the glass half full. I mean, nothing that you've said is something that I can really disagree with. I mean, it's definitely concerning. It's definitely something that, like, at this stage in the game, it feels like the wrong thing to do, but I find myself, like, trying to rationalize with what 343 did with the art direction. So that's kind of the only reason why I'm giving this any type of positive spin, is because I'm hoping, like, if maybe I say, like, good things about BioWare, maybe on some weird level that, like, 343 won't suck so bad, and maybe that'll be better. Like, I don't know. But I mean, there's nothing that you said about, like, why this should or would be perceived as negative is wrong. You know what I mean? I don't have anything to counter that with.
Yeah, I'm just like, it's almost the conversation we had last week, and stick with me, when we talked about console wars and how fucking stupid they are. And I mean, that's not anything shocking, but when we talk about, like, competition only helps the greater whole. I mean, there's a, we don't want, there's no reason to punch down and stuff like that, but Xbox doing good is only going to make PlayStation better. Like, PlayStation doing as good as they did last generation has only pushed Xbox to get to, and Microsoft to this point where they're providing all these consumer friendly initiatives, subscriptions, and they're really providing value and now content to their gaming division. So it's only good. It's only going to push each other. And when I say this, I say it in that regard, that BioWare making good games only helps the greater RPG genre in general. Like, a good BioWare game is going to push Bethesda to make a good Bethesda RPG. Like, it's just how it is. It's going to push Obsidian to make a great RPG. It's going to push, all these different RPG developers, like In Exile, or like you're these people who make these traditional RPG experiences. They're going to push them to do better. They're going to push them to make better experiences because this is good. And that's what I think a lot of people were hoping with BioWare after really falling flat with Andromeda, and I've heard it's gone to a better position. I'd like to actually play it because I do love Mass Effect. Like, I've learned to love it over the years. It never really caught me like a lot of people did, but Dragon Age, from what I played of it, really did, and I'd love to go back and give those games another shot. I just never seemed to really finish any of them because they were so deep, and it just one of those things. Like, I'll start playing a game and get 20 hours into it, and then something else pop up that I want to play, type of thing. Or I'll get pulled into a live service game or some shit like that. But, it's stuff like that it's like, it's only going to make, like, their success is only going to make things better. And I think that's what a lot of people were hoping after really falling flat with Andromeda, that, hey, Anthem's going to be better, even though they saw the writing on the wall with that for the most part. But them saying, okay, now that they're really at rock bottom, there's only one place to go, and that's up. Lean back into Dragon Age, lean back into Mass Effect, lean back into these franchises that people still have a connection with and fans still want to, actually dive into and invest in. So I'm still holding out hope for them because I do just want a good Mass Effect game this generation. And I'm excited to play go back and play the remastered trilogy. Like going back and trying to play Mass Effect 1 last year, I think it was tough. It was really tough to do because that game needs a lot of quality of life, fixes, just a little bit of modernization, not a lot, but enough where I'm not feeling as clunky when I'm playing this game.
Yeah.
And the only thing with BioWare games is, like, I want to jump in and just play 2 because I never finished 2, but I forget so much of 1 that they have a through line all the way through, that when you start 2, you could import your file from 1, that it's like you carry that story forward, that it's like, I'm OCD like that. I'm like, well, I gotta fucking play the first. I'm not just gonna make up a story I won't have any connection with. Like, I don't know. I don't want to get too long in it, but it's a good BioWare is only going to be good for everyone, and it sucks to see. And like I said, I don't want to comment on somebody's life that I don't know personally or anything. Who the hell knows? I'm sure Casey's in a great place financially that he's like, hey, you know what? It just isn't for me anymore. I want to explore different things. I'm at this point in my life, and maybe I don't want to do this anymore. That, I want to try something different. And that's great. I envy people who are in that position, so yeah, it may be stuff like that. But at the same time too, after leaving the studio twice now, especially in a, just getting back there in 2017, it's rough. That's rough. And same with, Mark being so tied to the inception of Dragon Age that it's like, somebody who's been there forever and now seeing kind of Dragon Age 4 go cold for a while. It's like, hey, who the hell knows? So, Mike, let's head into our second news story for this week. Fortnite. Talking Fortnite. And what, Halo? Fortnite and Halo collaboration skin for the Master Chief leaks online. This comes from Kieran Cryer over on Games Radar, as always, link in the description. It looks like none other than Master Chief himself is coming to Fortnite Battle Royale. Just earlier today, on December 3rd, the screenshots just below, which I have also thrown in the tweet here that they're pulling from, were posted to a Twitter via Fortnite Battle Royale Leaks, an account that has a track record of leaking and data mining Fortnite content ahead of schedule. As you can see, the Master Chief, a Warthog, and a Pelican will be making their way from the Halo universe into the Fortnite world. It's a pretty huge surprise, but considerably less so after Kratos from God of War leaked for Fortnite yesterday, which actually, at the time of recording, I actually just checked, they fully announced it. Kratos from God of War is in the Fortnite store right now. That is a legitimate thing that happened, so this is pretty much going to happen. It's pretty much going to be real. I feel pretty confident saying that. A prolific Fortnite data miner and leaker revealed the existence of a Kratos skin from Fortnite yesterday, and shortly afterwards, the official Fortnite Twitter account began teasing the introduction of the Greek god himself. Currently, we have no real idea how you're going to be unlocking the Master Chief and Kratos skins in Fortnite, but now we know that Kratos, you could just jump in and just fucking buy the skin, as far as I know. There are some users suggesting that you'll be rewarded for playing using their PS5 or Xbox Series X or Series S to play Fortnite, but it makes more sense for a collaboration skin to be sold outright through Fortnite's in-game item store. Either way, Fortnite welcoming Master Chief and Kratos is a pretty huge deal. I admittedly never thought that we'd see Sony or Microsoft would be consent to putting two of their most reputable characters on in Epic's game, but I'm really glad the collaborations have gotten the go-ahead. Yesterday also marked the arrival of Fortnite Chapter 2 Season 5 Zero Point, after Galactus invaded the Fortnite island to mark the end of the previous season in a huge live event that was viewed by over 15 million players worldwide. That's fucking crazy, man. The new season stars the likes of The Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, the former of which is a reward for purchasing the game's new Battle Pass. So, listen, I think it's safe to say, Mike, to assume the majority of our audience probably now, if you've been listening for well over a year and a half now, this point, knows that we're not the biggest fans of Fortnite in terms of actually playing the game. I think that's safe to say. Even though I did jump back in because I'm a huge Star Wars fan and wanted to at least check out the Mando skin. I didn't buy it yet, but I played a couple games here and there. But me personally, I'll go to bat any day of the week to say that no one is touching Epic Games right now in terms of providing sprawling content, a sprawling content landscape for players at an incredibly affordable price point. I mean, really, unless you're going in there and grabbing mommy and daddy's card and spending $10,000 on V-Bucks, which I'm sure has happened before, that this game for being this is the model of, hey, this is like the premier model of, example of, I should say, of showing being like the free-to-play model works. Saying, we provide you with this polished product that you're throwing in that you don't have to pay anything to get in and enjoy. You can just jump in, have fun with it, but you're going to feel inclined to, after putting all this time in and having such a premium experience at no cost, to say, yeah, I'll throw $8 at you to get the battle pass. Holy shit, I'm getting all of this content just for playing the game. That's great. Like, they do that so well, from Marvel to DC to Star Wars to John Wick and tons more. Fortnite is providing not only the newest iteration of the group hangout in the basement of years past, in the marshy compound, baby, like going down the like, they're providing that virtually now and so good at doing that, but also literally every kid's dream of having all of your action figures just fucking duke it out in front of you. Your Ninja Turtles are fighting Batman. Your fucking Iron Man action figure is now going to fight your fucking Lord of the Rings action figure. Like, that is a possibility now, and they're making that a reality with this. So now that Epic seems to really be pushing towards making that a reality for gaming fans and their favorite mascots, it's only inevitable, until Fortnite really is in reality to compete for the museum of gaming that Super Smash Brothers grasps right now, where Super Smash Brothers is this celebration of gaming in general, with all of these franchises in there, all even ones that aren't even on Nintendo platforms that are available to play in Super Smash Brothers. Do you see Chief's inevitable inclusion to be the start of, really, now that we know Kratos is for sure in the game, and all of this info seems to back up, yeah, Chief's on his way too, to be really the start of an onslaught of gaming characters making their way into the Battle Royale king that is Fortnite? And really, holy shit, will this game, which is now really a platform that they're playing on, not just a game, will this ever fucking lose steam?
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't foresee it happening.
We've been calling this game losing steam for years now. It feels like.
Yeah.
The fad's gonna die off. The fad's eventually gonna die off. We've been saying it every fucking 3 months.
Yeah, pretending or hoping that it will, but no, I don't foresee it, losing any steam anytime soon. And for Microsoft, it seems kind of almost like a win-win to include Master Chief in Fortnite, and same with Sony and Kratos, really, because there is a huge contingency of young gamers that play these games that might become introduced to Master Chief or Kratos for the first time in their life just through Fortnite. And when you have 15 million people watching a live event on Fortnite, like there was, the other day, there's no hiding the fact that there is a ton of people that still play Fortnite. Love it or hate it, that's just the way it is. So I definitely think that this is like kind of like a maneuver that is definitely a win-win in marketing wise for both parties. And when I say both parties, I guess I could say all three parties, but um, I definitely, foresee a lot of different exclusive characters start making their way towards Fortnite. Like we saw John Wick, like you said, we saw Batman come in. We've seen, Thanos was in the game. Like
Hmm.
pop culture has been crossing over with Fortnite for quite a while now, and it is actually like really remarkable that it's even as big of a thing as it is. And I'm really pumped because there's a lot of people who love these characters that are going to be thrilled to play it. And if Fortnite gets Master Chief, I'll probably get on and try to unlock him because I think that's pretty sick, right?
Hmm.
And I think like it's just it is like basically there's really no reason that Fortnite or that studios wouldn't want some of their exclusive characters to make their way over to Fortnite. I don't know the ins and outs of the business dealing, like business proceedings per se, because I'm sure that they've come to some type of monetary agreement to have the characters in game, and we'll never know that. But
Hmm.
I really don't know how anyone could really view this as a loss for either party, because either way you're getting one of the most influential characters in game, well, two of the most influential gaming characters like in history with Kratos and Master Chief on your game that you were enjoying as a service, and people are going to buy them. Like
Hmm.
that's when it comes down to it. Like your game that's free to play and you make a lot of your money off the skin store. So why not bring two of the biggest faces of all time to your platform? Now, you know, Nintendo characters are never going to make the crossover, I wouldn't think, but that's more of like a Nintendo thing. And
Hmm.
Nintendo doesn't really have to do the crossover. So good on them. But I just, I'll be interested to see who makes the crossover next because, it feels like some of the Nintendo like exclusive games, um, the characters might not be best suited for a shooter game like this.
Hmm.
But you never know what Fortnite's up to, and you'll never know what they'll start including. So I am curious to see what comes next. But don't 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 you're gonna hear it here first. I'm gonna
All
give a
right.
little
All right.
prediction. Don't be too shocked if you see Sam Fisher make his way into a Fortnite game
Oh, I
very
love
soon,
it.
because Ubisoft has been absolutely teasing you in
Oh yeah.
particular for so long with putting him in Siege and other games. Like I wouldn't be shocked to see him in Fortnite next. You know what I mean? Just to continue teasing everyone who's a Sam Fisher fan.
Absolutely not. I mean, like, and you know what? I'll throw out another prediction as well myself. Um, I think at the game by the Game Awards next week, and to be honest, I think if Kratos wouldn't have leaked this early, I think he would have been announced at the Game Awards.
Hmm.
I think originally the plan was, and I still think these potentially, who knows, they may do fucking Master Chief tomorrow or whatever. But I think by the Game Awards, we're going to have not only obviously Kratos announced, but Master Chief is going to be announced in this. And I actually checked it. The line of skin that's called that includes Kratos is Gaming Legends series. So clearly there's going to be multiple.
More,
There's going
yeah.
to be more. There's going to be this whole season is going to include a ton of them. I think by the Game Awards, we're going to see Kratos announced, Master Chief announced, and Samus from Metroid announced.
Oh, yeah.
Because
That's a pretty good
because
one.
technically she does shoot a weapon, so it is like okay, you could see that fitting in there. But just thinking out loud, it's like if they get enough of these fucking characters in there, where this game is, I mean, just in general, this game has become just this is the museum of really not just gaming but pop culture. But because for all the fact that you could jump into a game right now in a squad of 4 and have Kratos in there from God of War, have and the big thing is too, because I was thinking when they announced the Kratos skin or when they announce these skins, they're going to be platform exclusive, where hey, you can
Yeah.
only play as Kratos on PlayStation or whatever, because that's how the Mario and Luigi and Samus skins for Rocket League were on Switch when they came. You're like, oh, you get these skins for buying it on Switch, but when you go to play them on something else, they just look like regular cars or whatever. One of my friends on Twitter, following him, purchased it and is playing on Xbox Series X as Kratos right now. So you can play these on anything, which is wild. But the fact that you can jump in on an Xbox Series X and play as Kratos from God of War in a squad with Batman, Iron Man, and fucking Rey from Star Wars is unbelievable. And we have our qualms with the battle royale genre as a whole, but in general, man, like, I cannot say enough fucking good things about what. Now, granted, also too, I think it very much was the perfect storm for Fortnite. They weren't the first, but they were the first to get everything to just fit properly with battle royales, where they made it. It still had competitive elements to it. It still had a element of skill that was involved with it as well, with building or whatever, and however you feel about it. But it still had all of those layers. But it was a very visually appealing to a broad audience. It wasn't, super realistic, but it was a little cartoony, but it was also still a unique art style that just, and two, for the fact it was fucking free to play. Anybody can play it, whatever, like, it hit at such a perfect time for this game. And especially too with streaming, when Twitch was really starting to finally hit its mainstream success, it with Ninja and whatnot, like, it was the perfect storm for it. But Epic has been able to capitalize off of that. And I think we would have seen this game really lose steam if Epic wouldn't have necessarily, one, done so many consumer-friendly things that they've done in terms of developers and whatnot, with, giving them a much bigger cutback to the games they sell in the Epic Games Store and things like that. And also, too, pulling just a straight-up Valve move with, like they did with Half-Life 2 in Steam. Like, hey, if you want to play Fortnite, you have to install the Epic Games Store and launcher, like when Half-Life 2 came out. Hey, if you want to play Half-Life 2, you have to install Steam on your computer. So make a Steam account. So it's just that Trojan horse mentality of getting that in. Just so many things have made this, but they haven't squandered it. All this money that they fucking made off of Fortnite, they've dumped it back into the game of saying, hey, we're putting all this money in competitive gameplay. Hey, we're putting all this money into getting all these licenses in the game. Hey, we're putting all this money to secure these huge in-game events and paying our developers to work around the clock to get these out there. Because we've grown so big, we can afford to get so many people and pay them appropriately. From what I've heard, they're paid appropriately with crunch and everything. So it's wild, man. I just don't think, me personally, if they would have squandered that, I think this game would have been really on a downward spiral maybe about a year ago. Not downward spiral. It always would have been somewhat relevant, but not to the point where it's at today, where we're seeing 15 million people watch one event live. It's bananas. Absolutely bananas.
Yeah, you bring up like Half-Life 2 requiring Steam. I remember, this is going to date me and people might not believe me, but I remember back in the day with CS 1.5, like when 1.6 was coming out, I remember having to go on to GameSpy Arcade or GameSpy.com or going on another website to get the patches for CS. Like, I remember vividly, being told or like reading that, hey, when it's time to move on from 1.5, like when everyone moves to 1.6, that's great, but we have this new platform called Steam, and it's a lot easier to download. It takes less time. It's not as difficult to get the patch on release day, because whenever people use a place or try to get patches back in CS, you waited in a day-long queue to download the patch. Like, the servers were so throttled because people were downloading it at such high rates that, I remember that was the move for 1.6. And, good on Epic, like you said, for giving more of a cut out of games to devs and everything. But the only thing I really wanted to just rebut on is I didn't realize totally that they were calling it the Legends of Gaming series. So
yeah, I just saw that now from the screenshot of somebody's like the locker in Fortnite where you can go and like pick your skin that you want to wear whenever it shows the Kratos skin and what it is, like Kratos legendary skin, and it says on there like what it's from, and it's like Gaming Legends series or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe this character is too old to be included in the game. But I mean, Sam Fisher. I mean, that would be the ultimate troll by Ubisoft, and I kind of said it trollingly.
Hmm.
But if they're gonna include Samus in the game potentially, like, don't you think Mega Man would have a space in the
Fuck
game?
yeah.
Like, maybe Nintendo is gonna make a new Mega Man game, and one better to kind of re-release him to the world and re-show him off is with a Fortnite skin.
Hmm. No, totally. And that's what's so fucking cool about all of this. Like, I admire Fortnite from afar so much that like I will never be good at building. Like I gave up on that game a long time. I'll jump in every now and then just to fuck around and like have a good time and whenever, and I think I talked about it before. Like I told myself, if the Batman skin ever comes back into the shop and I see somebody tweeting about it, I'm telling myself to buy it because it's like $5. I'm like, okay, whatever. Like I'll spend $5. Like I've gotten whatever it is, 50 hours out of Fortnite probably, if not more, in its lifetime, and I haven't even, and that's me not playing it that much. Like that's not that many hours, but just for the sole fact that like I still got that out of a free game and maybe have put $20 in it lifetime, like that's ridiculous. So like for me, I'm like totally, yeah, absolutely. If it comes back in, and sure as shit, a couple months ago, it popped back. I saw on Twitter they posted about it, and I was like, they were like, for a limited time over the next 3 days, the Batman collection is back in the thing for $15. You get all the skins, all the whatever. I'm like, cool, sure, I'm good with that. I have that.
Hmm.
I can spend $15 in a game that I put 50, 60 hours in at one point. Like, sure, why not? I don't care. So the fact that it's just at that point where anything can happen in this fucking game. I mean, anything could happen. Anybody could show up in this game. And the fact that we're a ghost, like Ghostbusters are in it, fucking Bill Murray is in this fucking game. Like that tells you alone that anything is possible. I'm waiting on. I wouldn't be shocked if the main character from fucking Dark Souls shows up in that game as a playable skin. I wouldn't be shocked if fucking like Marcus Phoenix shows up or Kate Diaz. Like I would not be shocked if any character at any point, anybody in gaming, pop culture, whatever, shows up in this game. I'd be like, oh yeah, I figured.
Yeah.
So it's.
I think the Avengers skin really broke that ceiling for me as far as like, wow, like that's actually a thing. Like
100%.
you know what I mean?
I regret not buying some of the Captain America skin and stuff like that. That I'm like, oh, fuck. The handful of times that I do want to come back and play Fortnite, like a couple times throughout the year, that it's like, fuck, I wish I had that. I wish I would have bought that and spent the $5 or whatever. But I digress. This is the most we've ever talked probably about Fortnite on the show, and probably ever will. But I'm always one to give credit where credit's due in gaming. I don't like I said, we don't play Fortnite. That's not, I don't think, our audience. So that's why we really don't talk about it. But I will always be a fan of what Epic's doing for this game. I don't like Tim Sweeney very much because I think he's kind of standing on a soapbox a little bit and acting like he's like a messiah for when it's coming to their battle with Apple. And I think it's, for what they're doing, they're still making billions of dollars and they're acting like they're being like screwed. Like,
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that.
Woe is you.
Yeah,
oh my
woe is
God.
you, my God, the billionaire. So like, to be honest, but at the same time, I take the artist away from the art, and this game is doing things that I never thought would be imaginable in a game of that caliber and have that kind of steam. So major props to them. Mike, let's head into our last article for this week. And it's kind of a fun one. It's just kind of not messing around, but like stuff that's probably never going to like fully come to fruition that most people are going to be able to do because it requires much more steps than just the headline alone says. But enterprising developers are emulating PS2 games on the Series S and X. This comes from Ian Carlos Campbell over on The Verge, as always, link in the description. Developers have now made it possible to emulate PS2 games on the Xbox Series X and S using RetroArch Emulator, something that the PlayStation 5, a successor to the PS2, can't. Thanks to the Xbox Series X and S's console's developer mode, the emulation software can be added as a universal Windows application, a UWA, allowing users to download a retail version of the emulation software directly to their console without tricky workarounds, so players don't have to wait for a re-release to play an older favorite. While RetroArch is able to emulate several different consoles, the compatibility for running PS2 games using the PCSX2 core is particularly notable because of how limited Sony's PlayStation 5 is when it comes to backwards compatibility compared to the Xbox. The new console is only natively backwards compatible with PlayStation 4 games, with some caveats, and Sony currently only offers the option to play PS3 and PS2 games using its PS Now game streaming service. It's worth mentioning that Microsoft doesn't officially support this kind of emulation, and PCSX2 support is still a work in progress, but the early results with RetroArch are exciting. Despite the limits imposed by a cap on file sizes, PS2 games do run at almost the same quality as they did on the original console. The process for adding RetroArch to your Xbox using developer mode is a bit complicated. You'll need to pay a $19 registration fee to be a part of Microsoft's developer program, then download the Dev Mode Activation app from the Xbox Store. Once the app is downloaded and running, you can connect your Xbox from a web browser using your local network and add the RetroArch UWA files. The UWA RetroArch is notably limited by the file size cap that could prevent you from running games larger than 2 gigabytes. The newer, easier method for doing this, created by programmer TuneUp3, was first covered by Ars Technica. TuneUp3's message uses a retail version of the RetroArch listed as a private app in the Xbox Store. By adding player emails to a whitelist, the full version of RetroArch can be downloaded directly to your Xbox with a code. This method removes the file size limitations that come with a developer UWA app, meaning more games are compatible, at least until Microsoft eliminates this loophole. With RetroArch on the new Xbox, there's now solid proof that emulating these older consoles is possible on next-gen hardware. In fact, Microsoft already relies on an emulator built to run Xbox and Xbox 360 games on the Xbox One and Series X/S. For PlayStation games, the ball was still in Sony's court, and it is not yet clear whether it intends to offer a formal backwards compatibility option on the PlayStation 5 that goes beyond cloud streaming. So, like I said, I kind of threw this in just as a little fun ending to the show this week, since it's a little bit of a lighter news week outside of the BioWare news and whatnot, for the sole fact that now Microsoft really is the king of console backwards compatibility. Like, they now are, they are having their cake and eating it too. So all jokes aside, in a roundabout way, it's really kind of a cool pat on the back to the team at Xbox for the hardware they built, because while the original 2 PlayStation consoles aren't necessarily the hardest to emulate, each console has their own architecture specifically designed for each. It's why really the PS3 is so hard to provide backwards compatibility due to its cell processing and it being so uniquely made that it's so hard to actually emulate anywhere. It's so hard to actually, remaster these games and do whatnot. Usually it's from the ground up. So it really shows how versatile and powerful both the Series X and S are in their own right. So, Mike, do you think, Sony will ever really value backwards compatibility at the same level as Microsoft, given, it's almost full support of titles across the previous 3 generations of Xbox as it is, outside of, obviously some older sports games and different things like that, or yearly installs. It's all the major titles are there that you can play on your Xbox One, or Xbox Series X, thousands of titles across 3 generations.
I guess realistically speaking, you have to look at the fact that people were able to create this emulation on the Xbox Series X with relative ease. And whenever that's the case, you almost have to realize that maybe it's not so much how hard it is. Maybe Sony doesn't really, I don't even want to say doesn't care, but I do want to say it, like, maybe Sony just doesn't really care at the end of the day. They don't want to put the manpower hours into it. They don't want to actually do it. Like you said, PlayStation 3 games might be really hard to do, but I mean, correct me if, this is an Xbox show. I work on an Xbox show. I don't really mess around with PlayStation, but like, you can play PS2 games. You can't play PS2 or PS1 games on PS5, right?
You can play PS4 games on PS5.
but not PS2 or one, right?
No, it's not
But
like
Xbox is fully backwards compatible.
Yep, you could throw in a supported original Xbox disc, and it will work, no problem.
So, with that clarification, it basically would lead one to wonder if if people can do it on a Microsoft Xbox, why can't you do it on a Sony?
Yeah,
And I
no,
know there's a lot of software reasons, things of that nature, but again, this kind of just puts the ball in Sony's court, in my opinion. Like basically your move, pal, type thing.
mhm.
And not that like the developers that made the emulation, that's what they were out to do. I'm sure they were just out to like, I wonder if this is possible. They did it and was probably like, holy shit, like we actually did it. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
kudos to them, congratulations. But I also feel like Sony's probably hearing this and is probably like, oh, uh, okay.
Yeah,
And people are going to begin to ask questions of Sony, which is fair, but people don't care as it is that Sony isn't backwards compatible. They just keep buying the new PlayStation regardless. So I don't know that they care a whole lot and that they'll make a change, but it is interesting.
yeah, and I think at this point right now in console gaming, that's okay because I think just backwards compatibility speaks to just two different audiences in general. Like there is that audience of, hey, I play primarily on PC, and you see a lot of you see a lot of overlap and similarities with how things are handled given the fact that Microsoft is a software company based around personal computers, that you see a lot of overlap with Xbox and PC gaming. Like there's just a natural overlap that and the whole shtick around PC gaming is, hey, it's most of the time, for the most part, yeah, there's some workarounds with older, obscure games that you need to kind of, dig around and find ways to do. But, if you have the disc for a game, for a PC game, most times you can just pop it in there and load it up and it'll work. It's fine. Or, you see Steam, you can go on Steam and there's supported games that are 20 plus years old that you can just go on there and buy, no problem, that I think that speaks to that audience so much more, and maybe one of the reasons why that works so much. But the whole reason that people need to remember that, at the beginning of last generation, the Xbox One generation, Xbox One wasn't backwards compatible.
Hmm.
You couldn't pop in a 360. Like I felt very betrayed when I bought my Xbox One close to launch, because not that I didn't do my research, that I knew it wasn't backwards compatible, but there wasn't a ton to play at that point, that I was like,
Yeah.
well, I'm going to end up playing my 360 more because I could play Halo 3, Reach, whatever. Like I could play these games that aren't on Xbox One yet, or their newest iteration, until a new Xbox One game comes out that I want to play. But cool, like I wish I could just pop in my 360 disc because I'd love to do that. So like, it's not, people just need to realize that like, at one point, yeah, Xbox is kicking ass and Microsoft's kicking ass whenever it comes to backwards compatibility, but it wasn't very high on their list right off the bat. Like
Right.
it isn't something that they've been pounding their chest forever, because Sony, with previous systems on the PS3, at least the fat version of it, the original version of the PS3 was backwards compatible with PS2 and PlayStation 1.
Hmm.
Like, and the 360 was with certain original Xbox discs. That's it's never been like, oh, neither cared about it. But when it came to last generation, people need to remember they were both on the same playing field at one point. Xbox was just getting its fucking teeth kicked in for half the generation, that they need to start doing something to get more people in, and they thought the easier things to do was backwards compatibility. Hey, let's make a way to emulate these games on our system. We design the hardware, we can find a way to make the software work with it. We'll figure out a way. So it's I don't think Sony isn't in a position really right now. Now granted, they have 100 plus million PS4s out the door in people's houses, that sure, those people who are buying a PS5, they want all those people knowing that bought PS4s, hey, all of these games that I bought over the years for PS4, cool, I can play those on my PS5. Like
Hmm.
this is a good investment for me so that I can stay in this ecosystem. My PS4 isn't, I'm not going to have to leave my PS4 plugged in. Like they'll feel inclined to move on to that next generation because all their stuff will come with them. That's great. But like, outside of that, to a degree, how many people are out there asking, hey, I do want to put in my fucking, uh, Final Fantasy X PS2 disc, even though there is a remastered version of that game out that you could play on PlayStation 4, which will go and play on PlayStation 5. Like, all those bigger games have usually been, remastered, redone, or available just, hey, we're porting it digitally to the PlayStation Store or the Xbox Store or whatever. Like, they'll make their way on there eventually. It's just Xbox is much more forward facing with this, and they've been much more, hey, we just want to be the ecosystem that you come into and play all of our games, whether it's a lineage of games or whatever. We want you to have access to it in any way we can. And we've talked about it before, but Sony and Microsoft are just doing two different things. They're not battling each other. They're going into next gen in two different fashions, and that's okay. That's totally fine. They're trying to achieve two different things, and I think this is one of them. That cool. Microsoft is worried about, a little more consumer-friendly things in a more, hey, we just want to give you, here's the keys to the car, go ahead and drive it type of thing, where Sony is more worried, they're more focused on, hey, we believe in hard generations. We believe in, providing you with these huge narrative single-player experiences that are moving, single player games forward and whatnot, at least right now. Okay, they're doing two different things, and that's totally cool. So, Mike, send the party chat for the week before we wrap it up. If you're new to the show, party chat is where we discuss one question at the end of each week that, could be as simple as, what's your favorite story beat in the game, or what have you been playing during quarantine, or it could be a little more in depth as to why the negative stigma around gaming still exists. And after answering the question ourselves, we'll kick it over to you to tweet your responses over on our Twitter at GPGC Podcast, and also our email too. You can find that over on our Twitter account as well. And we'll read some of the responses the following week. Last week's question: will we ever see VR on both console and PC truly get past its gimmick phase and move into a more common form of gaming? And at Grateful Dead 48 says, or Gratefully Dead 48, says, yes, with Half-Life Alyx, we saw the first truly must-own VR title that pushes people to buy units, which in turn would hopefully mean manufacturers will invest more down the line, which I'm guessing he's meaning research and development and actually pushing these, into a more common way. But this week's question, Mike, with rumors swirling of a battle royale coming from Halo Infinite in 2021, what does 343 have to do to potentially make a potentially real Halo Battle Royale stand out apart from the sea of competitors?
I think, they already have it kind of inherently built into the game, which is going to give them a little bit of an advantage. And what I mean by that is some of the features that, they're going to include with, having a battle royale, which I think is a great idea, is, you have vehicles that is ingrained into the game through campaign. You have the warthogs, you have tanks, you have hornets. Now you have all those kinds of vehicles that are just already in the campaign that are just going to be so easy to continue over. And then they already have the ODSTs. There's so much that's just already included in Halo that makes it that's going to make it worthwhile. The shields, the health packs, like, they already have everything pretty much built in, based on just classic campaigns, things of that nature. But the thing that I think will make Halo a great battle royale is just simply like the time to kill that Halo boasts. Like, Halo has always been a game that has a longer time to kill, in comparison to most other games. It takes a little bit longer to kill your opponent. I think that is a very good feature to build around, with a battle royale mode. I think the guns, if you're going to start out with a assault rifle, that's fine, but the RNG factor is going to be a lot less important because there's skill-based loadouts that you have, as long as they balance the guns properly. So I think that's going to be a thing that really carries the battle royale mode if it comes out, is just, basically the only way you're going to get snipers and rocket launchers and stuff is through drops. And then,
Mhm.
people are going to see those drops coming and try to pick them off on you. So that's what I think. What about you?
The first thing I was going to say is time to kill. Like you were saying, it's Halo has always boasted this. It fundamentally has been a game that boasts a longer time to kill comparative to a Call of Duty, comparative to any these modern Twitch shooters that you see. Halo has always been added such. There is a longer time to kill your opponent in terms of the amount of time that you're spending playing the game without dying. So to me, that adds such a different layer of this game when you look at a battle royale, where it's
Mhm.
saying like, okay, I drop in. I know that, hey, I may get, if I hot drop, I may get in there and get toasted right off the bat, but knowing that my shields regen and, hopefully there's no, at least in my opinion, there's no Spartan abilities or anything like that. There could be, advanced movement to a degree. I think that's just such a natural thing in shooters now, but even if they didn't, I prefer that they don't, but I'm not going to like cry myself to sleep if they would have it. But point being that having that longer time to kill completely changes so many things with Battle Royale in general that you're focused on, oh, I got to heal up. Oh, I got to get shields. I got to do this and that. Where at least with Halo 2, you're regenning. You're worried about, like you said, if you're starting with an AR, cool. The one thing with Halo is always that I've always appreciated is in Halo, it's fair starts at all point. Everybody starts with the same weapon. There's, timers around the map where weapons will spawn, but everybody starts with the same weapon, health, amount of grenades, whatever. So to me, I want to see how they would handle, like you were saying, do you start with the AR or does everyone start without a gun? How does that work? And to me, I'd like to see everyone start with an AR. I would like to see that traditional style of Halo or start,
Or like the Halo 3 pistol.
yeah, even that. Like start with a weapon that once you drop in, even if, with that being, I think that balances out the time to kill aspect of it too. That, okay, sure, your shields regen, but that forces you to be a little more tactical with how you approach things compared to, in a Fortnite when you could just, run and build something real quick, or you run and you find the first person to find a gun, they kill that person. Well, at least this gives that person the ability to fight back and not have to. That gives a fairness to it. Whenever you both first drop, you at least have something that you could start off with and shoot with.
Right.
To me, that feels a little bit more fair whenever you're playing that game, especially with regen shields and whatnot. So, Mike, I think that's going to do it for our episode this week. Why don't you tell people where they can find you on the interwebs, talk about everything we talked about, whether we're talking about BioWare and how we just fucking hope they make a great game again, or we talk about Fortnite and how amazing that they've been doing as bringing in new content and these partnerships and how they've just somehow not fucking lost steam. Anything we really talked about, all the nerdy gaming news you need to know. Where can people find you on the interwebs to talk about it?
You can find me on Twitter at TOYSXLDIER. That's Toy Soldier, and the second O is an X. Or you can find me on Twitch at MP_Toy Soldier.
Nice. And as always, I'm your host, Travis White, aka Travelus, on most internet platforms, including at Travelus_ on Twitter. That's TRAVLESS_. You can also find me streaming time to time on twitch.tv/Travelus_, same as Twitter. And if you want to play some video games with me, you can do so over on Xbox Live at just regular Travelus. That's TRAVLESS. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, this has been your newest episode of the Game Pass Gamecast, your weekly go-to podcast for all things Xbox Game Pass, and PC gaming, including news, rumors, and conversations around them damn good video games. You can catch new episodes of the show when they drop each and every Friday morning on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and all other major podcast services. So be sure to subscribe to us, rate us, review us, all that jazz, the whole rigmarole that I tell you every week, wherever you get a podcast at. And follow us on Twitter at GPGC Podcast. Stay up to date with everything regarding the show, video games like, and our dope giveaways, which, reminder, listen to the end of the show, the very, very end of the show, to see if you won a copy of Cyberpunk 2077. If you got entered, it's too late now. If you didn't fucking enter before, we've been telling you for like a month and a half now. You should have fucking went in there and got it. I don't know what to tell you. Early bird gets the worm, Mike. You know what I'm talking about? So,
Right.
so make sure if you did enter, listen to the end of the show. See if you won a copy of Cyberpunk 2077 on Xbox or PC. And 2, just follow us to make sure you are in the know when we do have giveaways next time. And Mike, with that being said, that's going to be it for the show this week. Thank you everyone so much for listening, sharing, and being a part of our growing community. Game on, wash your hands, listen to the doctors, Black Lives Matter, and we will see you next week. All right, it's time to get someone hooked up with a copy of Cyberpunk 2077. That's right, the time is almost here to take over Night City, and we're ready to give one lucky listener a copy of the game. So, without further ado, the winner of a copy of Cyberpunk 2077 on Xbox or PC is at jhillsy91. That's right, that's at jhillsy91 on Twitter. Congratulations on winning yourself a copy of Cyberpunk 2077. So, now what you have to do is really simple. Reach out to us on Twitter at GPGC Podcast via DM. Just use a quick DM and let us know that you were listening this weekend. Guess what? We'll get you squared away with a copy of Cyberpunk 2077 so you can jump in on launch day. So, as always, thank you everyone so much for listening, sharing, and being part of our growing community here with the Game Pass Gamecast. And we're definitely not done doing giveaways anytime soon. If you've been listening to the show for almost 2 years now that we've been doing this show, you know that we like to hook you guys up here and there. So with, the big games that come out and every now and then. So make sure you're listening every week. You don't want to miss out on this stuff. Okay, now the show is really done now. I have to get this all edited so I can actually get some sleep tonight before I go to work. So I am done with the show this week. We'll see everyone next week.